All right, Lisa, so good to see you here in Cannes. Very excited to be here with you.
Lovely to see you too, Lisa.
Lisa squared, we've decided. All right, so lots going on this week, lots of buzz, about so many different things. Everything we've been hearing for a while around retail media, around audiences, privacy. You and I have had many conversations about the consumer journey, and the funnel is, no longer the natural path. But one of the things really top of mind for me is around upper funnel and branding. I mean, you are an expert, and with your time at Spark, how have you really gotten your brands to focus on upper funnel?
I think it starts with data, and it starts with understanding the consumer and where those trigger points are to a purchase. And so by using data, we can understand not only who they are, but we can also understand what they do, the kind of mindset they might be in, where they are, and what kind of screen they might be using. And so as a result, that enables us to construct the right message and also the right contextual look and feel so that we meet them where they are and we're more relevant, so that when you do drive that brand message, it does have more resonance.
What when you talk about the brand message, I mean, what kind of data points are you using, or data signals outside of audience, right? But data signals that help inform brands on that.
So it depends on the maturity of a brand, and so understanding where people are in terms of whether they're aware of the brand, what their perception is of the brand, and then also all these other signals that make up the part of the human being. So we talk a lot about identity. We have the Epsilon data that enables us to do that at Spark, which means that we're able to really look at human beings versus devices. And we're able to then ladder that back to transactions. So we can see if we've got a brand that's just launching, but it's in a category that already exists, we can see if these people have actually engaged with brands that are similar, or if it's a new to entry, a completely different category, then we can also see what might be those trigger points. What are we seeing people resonate with in terms of content? How are they engaging themselves in terms of their behaviors, both from a media perspective and a purchase and retail perspective as well?
Yeah. And how do you, thinking about, worked at Amazon for 11 years, as you know, people love the promise of ROAS and the very tip of the funnel. How do you get your brands to pivot back to that top of funnel, finding the net new customer? Because it seems like, the trend, even my conversations this week, the trend is turning a lot back to upper funnel, but it's been hard to get people to think bigger and make sure they keep filling. I said funnel again. Make sure they keep filling with net new customers for a brand.
Yeah, and it's a balance, right? Even with your loyal customers, you still need to maintain that trust. I liken it to any relationship. You have to be engaged in a relationship in order for it to work. And the same is true of brands and consumers. And so it's about balancing that brand and demand and balancing your messages. I recently had a conversation with a client who wanted to launch in a country in which they don't currently work. And they said, what we want to do is we want to launch on social, and we want to launch with couponing first. And my heart skipped a little beat, because I was like, okay, we can do that. But what you do when you do that is you convey straight away that your brand is not worth, and your product is not worth the value that you put it out as in the first place. And so you immediately devalue your brand. So depending on where people are at, enables us to think about what should that strategy be. So in this instance, this was about building a new brand in a new market and really earning the right to play, and at least have people understand not only what you are and who you are, but what your brand stands for and why people should care. Because at the end of the day, there is so much in the market. We all need to care about the brands that we work with and the brands that we purchase, because otherwise what's the reason to be if there's an alternative, right?
Yeah, I love that you said it's just like a relationship, and when you start dating somebody, you don't want to give them a coupon.
No, you definitely don't want to give them a coupon.
We can't skip
definitely
right
want to keep the receipt though.
Yeah, exactly. And then tell me about some great executions that you've seen brands do in that space, as far as really pulling in, engaging the customer, and starting that relationship. What's kind of some of the great executions you've seen?
I think it's all about understanding your consumer. I'm trying to just rack my brain slightly about which ones I would be able to talk about in this instance. But I've seen great work across QSR, where at Spark we work with Wendy's. and we see amazing resonance with consumers because we've got the humor right. Everybody knows the personality. It's quirky, it's cheeky, and it enables us to engage in different places. So when we launch a new product with our partners at Wendy's, it enables us to really understand what quirks, what humor can we put into place, and what would be the right places for us to be. I also saw some great work with truly deep insights from Publicis this week. We were really fortunate on Sunday to spend several hours reviewing all of the work that Publicis has made in the last year. And there was some really fantastic stuff in there. So when you really have a right to play and you understand the insight, I saw some work from South America where they had unlocked the insight that food unlocks memory, and they connected with people. Initially, the client had come in and they had said they wanted to resonate with younger audiences. And what they found was when they did this experimentation and they had a right to play, it had a true resonance. And so they worked with Alzheimer's patients in South America. And what they did was they unlocked the fact that when you hear something, we all know when we hear a piece of music, it takes us back.
Right.
This was about when you
Lisa and the Cult Jam.
Exactly like Lisa and the Cult Jam. But it's when you eat something, the olfactory response, the notion of eating something, you saw these people who previously in an interview couldn't even tell them, the interviewer, what their age was, what their name was, and they suddenly lit up and they said, oh, I remember this. It takes me to the place where I was at the beach and I did this and I saw this person, and suddenly they remembered things. And so the power of all great creative and execution from a media perspective, from my perspective, comes from a place of true deep insight, not facts and things that we pull out of a system, but when it really unlocks an insight.
What about that made me think about we on a daily basis deal with fragmentation in a big way, right? It's like how do we deliver the best, find the right audiences for our customers in the right environment, whether they're on mobile, no matter what screen they're on. Sometimes they're on both screens. But from a creative standpoint, do you work a lot with the creative teams and discuss fragmentation, and do they address that in a certain way?
Absolutely. In fact, in a former life when I was on the client side, I was targeting 18 to 22 year olds. It was for menstruation products, right? And so we in the actual pitch said, okay, you need to show us this. They had the big mission statement, the big 1.5-minute long film that they wanted to show us on the giant screen. And I said, okay, we're going to turn that off, show it to me on my phone. Because at that point in time, and probably still now, actually, the place to really understand whether it's going to resonate with that younger audience is in the device that's in their hand. I was talking to someone else the other day and they said that their teenager, no matter what, if they are watching a movie together as a family on the TV, they will sit and stream it and look at it on their phone. And so we have to be very aware about the behavior that you see and the way that consumers want to engage and consume content. And sometimes, as you know, we're a little bit older and uglier than some of those audiences, but you see that it's oxymoronic to us to want to watch something that long on the phone. I still do it sometimes. But for kids, that's where they start. And so thinking about, every aspect of the consumption of the creative and the message is part of that holistic mix. And I'd say importantly as well, it's about making sure that you put the end in mind in terms of the retail as well. So when we go to planning, we start with the data that understands transactions, understands retail, understands what drives the purchase to get us to that full mix and that holistic messaging that gets us all the way through to that self-fulfilling self-sourcing mix, right?
I'd be so interested to see how that's coming out in the Palais with the creative, because like I said, you and I talk about it and deal with it on a daily basis. Like, how do we buy? How do we make sure that we can deliver against this? But you never think about that from a creative standpoint. It's like a whole new challenge for the teams.
Yeah. And listen, the buzzword du jour, du semaine, whatever, it is obviously AI. I feel like on the one hand, that's great that people are finally getting with the program. On the other hand, it's been around for a very long time, like decades. And some of it we just take for granted. But now because it's become such a buzz, we've got people getting frightened about it. And it's not going to kill the world. Right. It's not there. It's going to help the world.
You need the skills. to
Yes.
understand it and work with it. We actually just started an AI academy within all of the agencies to get people up to speed and understand like just really the basics of it and not to be afraid of it and how simple it is. And it's exciting to bring it to market because LoopMe's patented AI for 12 years now. And it just simply explains the difference between even what's machine learning and AI, you know, which a lot of people don't fully understand. But anyway, it's just neither here nor there, but interesting.
No, it's super interesting. It's the same with us. Like we actually didn't come to Cannes 7 years ago, 8 years ago. I can't remember how many years it is now. We didn't come to Cannes because we wanted to invest even more into Marcel.ai. And that enables us to be much more connected as human beings across the globe, all 100,000 of us. And enables us to help our clients much more quickly. I can go into Marcel and quickly crowdsource across, you know, all of the countries in the world where we're present, which is most of them. I think we don't have an office in Antarctica, but, you know. But that enables us to get to a place where we can crowdsource and move much more fast. It also enables us to be much more accurate, much more quickly, and that's really what AI is going to bring for all of us right now. Is it brings us the speed to do the stuff that we don't really want to do. It makes us smarter, and it enables us to free up our brains to be doing some real creative thinking. Right.
So interesting. I'd love to see a replay of that message from our tour when you guys pulled out 8 years ago, and it was huge, but you were taking that millions and investing it in AI, and like now.
And everybody laughed at us.
I know.
And it was funny, last year we did have a campaign on the Croisette, and it was fun because, you know, last year everybody finally started talking about it, and we were like, you laughed at us all those years ago, and here we are, and we've been there, done that, got the t-shirt, and we're evolving even further. So I'm really proud of what we've done at Publicis.
All right, Lisa, last question. Sticking with brand performance, how are you bringing measurement to some of your brands for performance in brand advertising?
So performance-wise, it's the same usual suspects in terms of, you know, looking at actual transactions. So we have clean rooms using the power of the Epsilon clean room. We're also open source, and we'll use any clean room that a client wants us to use. So taking that identity data into the clean room alongside other partners' identity data, true clean room, not a data exchange, a clean room, and enabling us to really get to closing the loop on that measurement. That's absolutely critical moving forward. We're also seeing much more of a rise of the MMM, but an evolved MMM. Right. Where, you know, it moves much more of a fast pace, but also includes other metrics like the shifts in brand perception, like the shifts in weather or consumer price index, or all those or shock events, for example. And importantly, when it comes to brand metrics, we move at a much faster pace. So a number of years ago, 6.5 years ago now, when I first came over to Spark, I had come freshly from a client role where I found that we were measuring our brand equity every year, and we just assumed that nothing happened in between. And we all know that a brand can diminish quickly in a number of hours. It just takes one bad tweet or one bad post, and things can escalate pretty quickly. We've seen a lot of brands that's happened to in the last few years. Whereas it can also, if you've really had a good brand presence and you've built trust over years, you can build that back up relatively quickly, not like in the same time that it took to kill it, but relatively quickly. And when we had this instance happen at this brand, the previous year we'd done the brand study, and it said that our brand metrics were, you know, just fine, like an 8 out of 10. And when I looked at it again a year later, it was an 8 out of 10, but it didn't account for the fact that there was double-digit millions off the share of the revenue, because the brand metrics went down in that time. And you can't underestimate how important brand and trust is when you're trying to make conversions. You know, I have to trust something that I'm going to be purchasing and putting in my body, or if I'm going to wear it or use it in any way with my family. Yeah. Brand,
LoopMe does brand measurement, and consideration is the number one thing that brands want to see, not just like where they are as a brand, but also, you know, the performance aspect of that is the consideration, and it's really becoming, it's almost a new currency in a way, you know, and it's exciting that, you know, you can measure that in real time and then also optimize against it.
Absolutely. I mean, there's so many brands where their problem isn't that it's not awareness. People know the brand,
Right.
and it's not perception. People love the
Yeah.
brand, but it's getting that drive to action to get people over the hurdle of actually purchasing. And so we often do studies that are programmatic. We call it Flair at Spark, and we use a programmatic base that enables to get a very quick read. And it's a more robust size of panel as well. And we do this thing which we call launch and learn. It enables us to go into market, do it, and see pretty quickly, is it moving the needle? And then move forward and, you know, fail fast.
Yeah, fail fast, have to. All right, thank you. Have a good day, rest of the week out there.
Thanks so much.